Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and we are at the start of our 4th annual Library 2.0 conference. So delighted to have Stephen Abram back here. Stephen, thank you for doing this. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much to the School of Information at San Jose State University, the founding sponsor of the conference. Dr. Sandra Hirsch, the director of the iSchool, is the co-chair of the conference. We really appreciate the support and this opportunity each year. Thanks to CISL on board this year for the first time, Rutgers helping us do this, and one of the major supporters of yesterday's Connected Librarian Day, along with Follett, which was just a terrific day, and the recordings of all the sessions are up at on the website at Library20 or connectedlibrarian.com. Thanks to Library Journal, Blackboard Collaborate, Wilson Consulting, Wilma, and Counting Options. And this is a Learning Revolution project. We've had a lot of fun this year. We've done a Future of Museums conference, the School Leadership, Homeschooling, Future of Libraries, and we have the huge Global Education Conference coming up in November. Please join us at learningrevolution.com. So those of you who are participating live, look for the star to the left of the map. Click on the map. Indicate in the chat, if you would, maybe where you are, the time and the temperature. Looks like the UK, Canada, Central Europe. We do this exercise in every session, and I still really love it.
Yeah. I see somebody's in the air. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's flying.
Flying over Europe is not a bad trick.
I can't tell if that's Caribbean or Florida. We did have someone from Puerto Rico in the last session, which was fun. Okay, just let us know in the chat where you're participating from. We'll give Stephen as much time as possible, so I'm going to move us forward. Thank you again. Take it over, and I'll be here to help you out.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. This is the 4th time I've spoken at Web 2.014, or whatever the other numbers were, the other years. I like to think of this as Woodstock for librarians because it's global. It involves thousands of us over 2 or 3 days, and it also has that follow-up activity where the recordings can do stuff. And just to go back to the sponsor slide, I'm happy to see that some of these people on these slides are excellent examples of collaborators, whether they're in the private or the public sector. I like that different schools are involved in this Web 2 activity. And you look at people like vendors like Counting Opinions that bring together collaborations of libraries to get better numbers. And even this learning opportunity is a collaboration. So it's an example of things that are important. So as we look at trying to develop tactics to get to the next level, bravely taking risks, how do we deal with that? And so because this is an international conference, I thought it was important that we look at things that are going on, like the words that I come into and where I'm coming from. It's a windy day here in Toronto. I think the wind's like 60 miles an hour. I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I've been on the San Jose State School of Information International Advisory Board for over a decade as we, as a team, advise the largest library school and archive school and information management school in the world. Right now, one of my larger consulting contracts is to be executive director and basically chief lobbyist and fundraiser for the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries, where we're working at moving collaboration to another plateau in Ontario. And there are some good examples in Canada and around the world of the way things work. You might know my blog, Stephen's Lighthouse, and my associated consulting firm, Lighthouse Consulting, where I consult to consortia in the academic, public, and school library sector as well. A number of many clients. I think this is turning, 1978 was when I started in library school, but I started in libraries in grade 8 as a shelver, so I've been around a long time. And I've also been in charge of building collaborations and strategies for innovation in some of the largest software and publishing houses in the world as well. So that's where I come from looking at collaboration. I don't see big black lines between types of libraries. I don't see big black lines and barriers between the private and the public sector or associations or consortia. I want to do a little bit of definitions here on what collaboration is. Obviously, collaboration can be everything, and that doesn't work because it lacks focus. We need to define what collaboration looks like in our environment, and one of the things we sometimes forget, especially in a social sector institution like libraries and education and learning and the activities we undertake around community engagement, we sometimes set the value in collaboration on the good feeling from collaborating rather than the results. And so I'm going to talk today about a results-driven approach to collaboration that helps us move ahead in a more effective way. So we got some obligatory definitions. You know, the collaboration is the action of working with someone to produce or create something. It's an abstract activity. It's united. It can be literary, artistic, scientific, project-based, and it's an intellectual endeavor. But we need to look at collaboration as being about people, not about things. And sometimes our measurements of whether collaboration is successful are qualitative rather than quantitative, and we need to rebalance that. So collaborator has one activity, you know, spies and traders in its definition, but to be a collaborator just means to work jointly on an activity or a project, to be an associate. And I'll be talking a little bit about the collaboration of how we think about those folks. But part of it is based on risk. If you're collaborating and you're really just managing operations, that's not collaboration, that's just teamwork. Risk-taking and risk is something can turn out well or badly in a particular context. And it's been noted over and over and over again by leaders in our profession, in libraries worldwide, that we are a risk-averse profession. And we need to recognize that risk management is the skill, not risk avoidance. And that's one of our challenges as we move forward, largely being responsible for being the custodians of public money and public services, and services with strong attachment to our communities and our researchers and our scholars. A risk taker is someone who risks loss or injury in the hope of gain or excitement. Excitement is part of the attachment. Like, you know, it's fun to collaborate when you're building something really special. When I think back to what it must have felt like when, you know, one of our more successful collaboration activities worldwide started back in the late 60s, early 70s with OCLC. And collaborating to create a more cost-effective way of building and sharing catalog cards. And look at what that has become with some of the most recent stuff on discovery. And, you know, OCLC is the backbone of Amazon, the metadata records that librarians create. It's the backbone of Google Books. And sometimes we forget that we've created some of the backbone pieces through our collaborations that make the internet play well with others. But when we look at, you know, hardly anyone gets really injured in library collaboration, but we do worry about risk of esteem loss, risk of professional status, risk of drawing attention to ourselves. Sometimes people worry about drawing attention to themselves in a negative or a positive context. And we keep our candle under a basket. I tend to like this definition, and it's from Cisco. Collaboration is highly diversified teams. Keyword diversified. If everybody's the same on your team, like if you have a team of, say, librarians who have a certain mindset, making decisions about technology without technology experts on the team. If you have technology experts making decisions about a website without an understanding of the use cases on how humans are going to use it in their questioning or entertainment creation, entertainment engagement. And working together inside and outside an organization. They use company, but librarians sometimes don't like business models, but it doesn't mean we don't have to behave in a business-like fashion. And the inside and outside is important. Can you bring the customer inside? Can you collaborate with your customers? The trend in public libraries to community-led. The trend in academic libraries to student and researcher-focused activities imply, and matter of fact, create a drive to collaborate with the end users in co-creation. Sorry, I've got my fall allergy cough. And so the purpose is to create value. And when you create value, you create something measurable by innovating, by changing the quality or the status of customer relationships, whether we call them customers, patrons, members, scholars, students, learners, it doesn't matter. Or we improve efficiency through the leverage by leveraging technology so that we can create more virtual, effective, and virtual and physical interactions in different spaces. And I think this definition sums it up more for me as I searched for definitions that started to focus on where my values are in terms of collaboration. Bringing together multiple learning styles, multiple talents, multiple types of thinking, bringing customers into the loop through some focus. It doesn't have to be at every step of the way, but it certainly should be at some step of the way. Bringing our members, our scholars in. And looking at what the goal is and how we identify what we want to achieve, and then how will we measure that achievement on the different milestones, because collaboration is a long-term process. It is not an event. It's not something that happens in a focus group and then ends. Collaboration has an arc that lasts years, not days or hours. What collaboration is not it's not innovation. Innovation is a goal. There's some confusion in the community about the relationship between collaboration and innovation. I like the definition of innovation is it doesn't have to be new to you. It doesn't have to be new by time. It has to be new to the person experiencing it. So we see people experiencing 3D printing in libraries for the first time that we might have seen 2 or 3 years ago. And it's new to them. And that's innovation. But the goal is the relationship between collaboration and innovation. By being innovative, you are changing the dynamics of something as we progress towards a future. We're not necessarily being collaborative, but we are focused on the goal. And there are interdependencies between the two, but they're not the same thing. I put this slide up so you can look at it later. These slides are going to show up on my blog. They'll show up on the Web 2.014 site as well. But this helps you to read later the difference between cooperation, coordination, and collaboration. In library land, we see a lot of consortia providing cooperation and coordination services, but never reaching collaboration. Some consortia are more buying clubs, where they do the good management work of cooperating and coordinating, but it's not collaboration. And these lists help separate the two. So if you want your consortia, if you want your group of branches, if you want, my local university has over 100 libraries in it. If you want them to collaborate on certain shared goals, it's a different thing than everybody having to buy from the same organization. And I thought this slide was useful as a takeaway. What collaboration is not it's not simple cooperation. It's not a buying club. It's not old-style consortia. New-style consortia are where you have meat in the game. You're part of the decision-making. You're part of and so buried into it that detaching yourself from the consortia or changing supplier of a database in a consortia wouldn't be, old style, it wouldn't be a painful thing. You just change consortia or go direct or whatever. It would be a painful thing if you share technology, share infrastructure, share cloud computing, share decision-making. And sometimes in those scenarios, your collaboration involves not being so self-centered that you're only buying things that matter to you. That's sort of the childlike old-style consortia. It's not teamwork, although teamwork is the activity that helps. And it's not a confederation of equals. In our profession, the word equal and the word equitable need to be defined effectively as we work forward. If everyone was equal, the small library with the large library, or the technician who understands the technology with the acquisitions person who understands the content, everyone brings something to the table that allows them to participate equitably. They may not be an equal at any one time. Your talent may drive your success at different points along the way. And understanding equitable participation helps to move you along to a better collaborative effort. And so as you move through the process of from contacting each other to cooperating together to coordinating to collaboration until you get to convergence. So think of things like outside of libraries, and compare it to our library cards that might be system dependent. And then think, would PayPal or Visa or American Express ever create a system dependent card? Cards started being store dependent. You had a JCPenney card. You had a card that worked for that department store until they didn't. And now they're more loyalty cards. And you moved into a collaborative effort where all the banks agreed to common standards to do that. What's interesting is we're now starting to see the beginning of debit cards turn into the library card. So you can go to companies like Cersei Dynex and offer debit cards out of the library that have money on them for fines or able to be used in the community, but also have the barcode, NFC, whatever on the card that allows them to be used as a library card. So collaboration is a process that end an outcome. And the outcomes are decided through the process of collaboration when people work together to decide what value they want to create and what solutions they need and how they're going to measure whether those solutions are successful. You only collaborate when it's something you can't do individually. I heard someone say, or several people say over the last couple of weeks, is I never assign work to anyone that I wouldn't do myself. Nowadays, that makes no sense to say that. When in my early career, I used to say it, but now I know there are things that I don't know how to do at all. And there are things that I only know half to do. I can manage it, but maybe I can't do it. I can't create an app, but I have managed the creations of apps or managed the scoping of what they should look like or what they should do, but somebody talented in app creation does it. And so when we collaborate, we're looking at creating something on a grander scale that requires multiple talents. So it's different than saying we're going to get together and cooperate on buying something because we're going to get an extra 2% discount if we cooperate. That's not collaboration. That's just cooperation. The cooperatives on our buying clubs are quite different. I'm not saying they don't deliver value and measurable value and cost savings, but possibly there are bigger cost savings in sharing infrastructure and discovery systems and software that take Things like open URL and discovery systems and integrated library systems and learning management systems to a fundamentally different level. But the collaboration required to share the infrastructure, the bones and the meat of our structures, are quite different as we need to understand what our different needs are and how we might share. And library's fundamental service proposition, fundamental value proposition of organization is sharing. So, it's shared goals, common goals, it's goal-driven, and everyone agrees to the goal. And the goal isn't necessarily the measurement. For instance, when I worked in, using another metaphor that's outside of libraries, when I worked in vendors, we rarely talked about profit. We knew that profit came from excellent products aligned with the customer need that evolved with the technology as it was changing, and that our measurement was profit because people bought them, were satisfied with them, renewed them or re-upped or upgraded. And it's quite a different thing to think that organizations are focused on profit. For instance, libraries often use circulation as a statistic. That is not our goal. Our goal is customer satisfaction, getting the right book into the right hand. In the nonfiction space, does it answer their question or upgrade their skills or knowledge in a certain area? So what are our goals separated from what are our measurements, and are we measuring the right thing, or are we just keeping statistics of activity? So when we're collaborating, it's very important to bring everyone together and agree on what the core goals are. They may adjust over time, they may evolve over time, but that's setting milestones and agreeing to those goals. And so whether we want to have our member cardholder growth, whether we want to achieve a surplus to invest in new technologies or new collections, those are measurements of whether your goals have been achieved and whether you're moving forward. They're rarely in collaboration around cost avoidance. A collaboration, a good collaboration is invested in success, not in avoiding something horrible like, oh, they're going to cut our budget, we better cut our costs. That's firefighting. And yes, sometimes you need to collaborate to deal with that, but the goal should be to get out of that hole and move forward. The big decision is avoiding bad collaboration. It's a waste of time and resources and produces no real results. It can produce feel-good activities because everyone got together and talked, but if you've had a how many of us have been in a meeting of key stakeholders where nothing happened over and over and over again? So that's when you need to decide not to collaborate or find, because it's a better option than bad collaboration. It's a waste of effort. So so we want to talk about what do we collaborate on, what tactics do we use to move forward for the really exciting, successful stuff. And it can be around sharing libraries, around polls, surveys, brainstorms. Are all of us working on understanding the demographics in our community, understanding the width of learning skills or learning styles in our student base? How do we provide advice and knowledge communities of practice like virtual reference or LibGuide vaults? And then can we co-create? Can we create a virtual team? One of my classic examples here is I see one university or college after another custom making their information literacy training. And they're doing some good jobs. But I don't see them collaborating with others, creating an e-learning object that can be delivered across all universities at the same time. Creating training in common databases across all universities and colleges at the same time, aimed at curricula. And so why can we collaborate and create a common core of catalog cards back in the 70s? And where is the common core for libraries of editable, adaptable programs e-learning objects, bibliographies, learning guides, pathfinders, that sort of stuff. And it's a real challenge for us that too many libraries, in my personal opinion, are hand knitting every sweater, and we need an industrial revolution that will clothe the world. And that's where why, when I was talking to Sandy, that I thought that collaboration was one of the things, the skills that we needed to up our game on a global basis. Basic principles. When you're collaborating with someone, everyone has to win. Win, 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 right around the table. It maybe not be the same win for everybody. When you're collaborating with a vendor, they may get a bigger client base. When you're collaborating with other universities or other public libraries, you all may be able to reduce your costs and up your community engagement. You may be able to introduce the quality of services. You may be able to provide more services, more content, more programs. Viewing failure versus mistakes. Mistakes is doing the same thing over and over again and not learning. Failure is a learning opportunity, and they're milestones. So in the IT world, we use Scrum and Agile systems where everything works in 2-week sprints. At the end of 2 weeks, what did we learn? Were we successful in building that piece, that small widget that needed to be done to build the next widget? Or did we fail and now we need another 2 weeks to figure out what we learned from that and do that? So failures are good, mistakes are bad, and those learning moments allow you to move forward. You don't stop when you fail. You don't feel bad about failure. You develop a culture of looking at that as a milestone. I talked a little bit about equitable participation because there are no junior partners on a good collaborative. Everybody brings something to the table, and it doesn't only just have to be volume or money. Everyone has a valid role, or they just aren't invited. We don't have to be a big tent where everyone gets to come. Everyone brings something of value. It needs to have openness as a basic principle, that you don't hide when something's wrong, going right back to the second bullet, failure. Hiding failure doesn't allow the learning to happen. And everybody needs to sit there and say, well, this didn't work. What did we do wrong? Or did we just have a mistiming? Does it need some more time? Or did we misconstrue or have a wrong principle or value in there? It's not technological focused, although most of the collaboration is changing because of things like SharePoint and Facebook and social media. Shared technology as a tool gets us forward because it allows us to collaborate virtually and reduce the space between the steps. It's not the number of steps in a plan, it's the space between the steps. Taking a breath in or saying, okay, we're not going to meet for another quarter, let's all think about this a week before the next meeting. With shared technology, we can collaborate as part of our DNA, our ecosystem, instead of as meeting events. And developing a new attitude towards risk. Hardly anyone dies doing a library project. The risk isn't necessarily or very rarely physical. The risk is about how do we create a safe environment for our folks to try new things. When we see a library ditching Dewey and reshelving their books, we don't sit there and put on our criticism hat and say, what an idiot move, this is terrible, they're ruining the library. We say, well, let's see what they did. Let's learn from what they're doing. And so when we see those libraries that have done that in the public library sector, getting 20 and 25% increases in their circulation with smaller collections, you go, oh, gee, maybe the measurement's showing that they're doing something right. What is it that's right in what they're doing? And no one's dying from facing books out and displaying them differently. So a teeny bit of library history is we've had various levels of success. The global not-for-profit cooperative OCLC being one. But as I said before, where are the stuff? We've seen some open source initiatives around open source software in libraries, around learning management systems, library objects, Android devices, a lot of open source software. Some of our consortia are moving up to their game, especially the statewide ones that are looking at cloud computing or shared resource sharing, getting deeper into the library collection and technology envelope than it was before. Some of us work through our associations to make this happen. Some of us work on international standards committees. When we look at the power that in my earlier career, Z3950 or Z3950, if I'm going to speak another language, another dialect, did around cooperating and setting standards for us to cooperate. Or the MARC record standard was one of the top 100 inventions in Y2K on the cover of Time magazine. So we look at infrastructure and the cooperation and collaborations we've done on data collection. So we've done collaborations on data collection at ARL and the Open Data Initiative in Ontario and other jurisdictions, the IMLS, NCES kind of stuff, ACRL. These are all great data things. And yet we've been weak on collaborating on data analysis. So we know our data and our statistics. The data analysis that one of the sponsors brings, like counting opinions, or the attachment of what does this data tell us, then we need to look at it. So in my role at the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries, we've been, for the first time, taking the Ontario data collection for public libraries in Ontario and doing the analysis of 15 years worth of data. What are the trends? One of the ones that jumped out at me a couple of weeks ago was that our cardholder growth is growing, which looked like a good number until I realized it's growing at half the speed of population growth. We cannot sustain libraries if we're not growing at the rate of population growth. So what strategies do we need to collaborate on to move that forward? And how do we use the tools? Like I said, the technology was a tool. Well, we've got tools around intranets, knowledge management, bookmark sharing, handling ebook systems, commenting on documents, putting post-it notes on a shared document, document editing systems, whether it's a Google Doc or a Dropbox or whatever, being able to do versioning control, being able to present and manage courses and build learning management systems collaboratively. These collaboration environments can be as simple as a social network and Twitter and what used to be Ning or Facebook, or as more advanced like a SharePoint system or some of the deeper knowledge management systems. The challenge is that none of these technologies are fully mature yet. They're not fully mature on a human alignment, and they're not fully mature on a simple-to-use basis. So there's a learning activity in developing collaboration within the tools. And frankly, face-to-face sometimes works just fine. And here's a chart that I found online from ZDNet that I think starts talking to when I grew up, we had teleconferencing and you could do some stuff, and it went to web conferencing, but now we've got chat and file sharing and a bunch of stuff that's happened over my lifetime, and we're now looking at collaboration suites that our associations or our collaboratives, our consortia or whatever can work with us on. And what's more interesting is we can start to create big data piles that allow us to analyze and develop insight from what's happening in our collaborative work to move forward. The obligatory Dilbert cartoon is we spent $500,000 on SharePoint and people still aren't collaborated. I collaborated 5 times this week, twice before coming to this meeting. What are the odds that he ever understands what collaboration means? Roughly equal to the possibility that you know what SharePoint is. We have some challenges as we evolve, that there's the people in the tool who trust the tool and people who are just coming to terms with using the tools, and the people who strongest suit is working interpersonally. And we're in this hybrid diversified environment right now as we bring our people along. There are barriers to collaboration. I tend to be closest to library culture, although I've worked in other cultures. We have some issues in our culture. We have some great strengths. Another barrier is turf and competition and hoarding of information. I've certainly seen library systems cheek to jowl right beside each other that don't talk to each other, even though they could. Even though the suburban libraries, and there's a downtown urban library, and people live in the suburbs and come downtown, and they couldn't share a card if their life depended on it, or sign up a user, or they create barriers to collaboration, thereby ensuring that they're doing everything the most expensive way possible because they have a Neanderthal view of territory. There's sometimes bad history between people, even though the people might have changed. There's not invented here thinking. There's here's an opportunity, but somebody fails to act because they're, oh, you know, I often hear, I'm 4 years from retirement. I don't want to do that when I'm at this time in my career. Or that we haven't spent the time on creating a common vision. The Libraries 2020 conference 5 years ago in Ontario, we created a common vision of 4 projects that we needed to do in Ontario. Building a learning management system for all libraries in Ontario. Building a common branding campaign and statistical analysis. Building leadership development training for trustees and librarians. We've got a number of shared things. Right now we're planning the Libraries 2025 conference to get a common vision for what we want to move forward. By developing this common vision, our success was we were able to create an opportunity to successfully get $18 million more from the provincial government because they bought into our vision that it was going to make a difference for Ontarians, not just for libraries. We have leadership training gaps. We have competency gaps that we can all address. We have minimal organization structure links amongst ourselves, maybe. We have an over-coalition communities. Like, you know, the old joke is you put 10 librarians in a room, you'll get 3 associations and 6 consortia. A lot of the times in public sector organizations, cash investments are viewed for short-term benefit and payoffs rather than long-term. Or we're applying 20th century rules in a 21st century context. We're a decade and a half, almost, into this century. Some of our 20th century rules are no longer working for us. And they're all barriers to ignore, walk around. One of the things with hurdles is, do you see a hurdle as a wall or something to leap over or walk around? It's an opportunity. So, now looking at the 7 tactics. This is sort of the structured side, but I'm looking for benefits from the tactics that are scalable, sustainable, replicable, that other people could do it. It's not one of those handcrafted, the initial might be handcrafted, but is it replicable? And can we have a measurable success from it? We need to look at what outputs do we need to achieve tactically that will meet the strategies of libraries having what we've always had, major impacts on community, learning, and research success. And how do we adapt our library systems of all types and maybe multi-type collaborations over the longer term so that we maintain our own relevance, evolve, and make the difference that we all know we make, that when a librarian wakes up in the morning, the world is a better place. So, tactic 1, the cloud and our back room. The cloud is a massive shift in the information technology architecture of the world. So, oops, where did I want to go back to the cloud. I hope this isn't going to bounce around. So how do we build, okay, don't do this. The cloud is the back room. So how do we work with our cloud folks to move this along and be successful? I don't know, I had words in there, so I'll double check it later. And the benefits are total cost of ownership with many of the studies that have done. There's both independent from the academic level and by the vendors. There seems to be an average savings of 60 to 75% on total cost of ownership. It also allows us to reposition staff into doing high-value, impactful work like building, engaging websites, building learning objects with the skills they have, rather than non-value-added work or low-value-added work like 80 library systems backing up 100 different servers, when it could be backed up in the cloud under contract, and all those people who are doing backups are repositioned into something more important. Social networks and community engagement. How do we develop an integrated marketing and communication that goes beyond our library systems? Can we collaborate with a story engine that collects stories on a province, state, or national level? How do we build opt-in activities? How do we get the benefits of branding the libraries more effectively, doing it cost effectively? We can't afford Super Bowl ads at $1 million, $20 million a minute. I forget what it is, but something ridiculous. And that one thing wouldn't work. I know when I was president of the Special Libraries Association, they said, well, we just need articles about the value of a special librarian on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Well, that's happened 4 or 5 times now. And it hasn't had the effect that we thought it would have, because the event of an article is not the same as a Marcom plan that is integrated, cost-effective, and integrates a story engine into the space and has people tell their stories effectively. Social networks shouldn't be managed with the engager at the center, but the engager with co-equals, customers, and partners in that space. It's one of the great opportunities facing us. Beacons. Some of you will probably know beacons are awesome. They're the latest shiny thing. They're the big replacement for near-field communication, although near-field communication is part of it. They're sort of a post-QR code kind of thing. They're interactive. You can put a beacon somewhere and have people do it. When we look at activities like Library Box from Jason Griffey, a low-cost, make it yourself if you want for $50, buy it from Jason for $150, allows you to put thousands of books in places where the internet isn't, or your branches aren't, or your students are there and your community is there. Putting books in train stations, 3 stories underground in a subway station, putting video in there, and having interactive activities there and being able to put it into a mesh network so you can update it on a regular basis. It gives you hyper-local work contextually, and it's inexpensive. You can create tours through town, orientations for students, gaming activities, geocaching, the things that serve customer engagement, and it allows us to break down the walls between either a website as a destination site or physical library facilities as destination sites. How do we move things to, where is the space in between both of those activities? So I've put some things up on Stevens Lighthouse, some stuff around understanding beacons, sort of FAQs. How do we research for ourselves? Can every system afford to do a public opinion survey? Some of the big urban systems can, but is that a cost-effective way of doing it? Probably not. How do we build? So right now I'm releasing an RFP to do a massive public opinion survey in our province of libraries. How do we track technology trends? The big companies buy the big tracking systems from the Gartner Group and the others. How do we look at technology trends in our space and understand them? Shouldn't we be buying them collaboratively and then developing the insights from them together? We seem to do the same thing with market research and local demographics and understanding what's going on and mapping our users and economic studies on what's happening in our towns. How do we build that up at a stronger level? And so that we get less cost per system, but more importantly, more knowledge driving our decision making. So how do we move past the statistics collection into insight and story creation as a strong tactic? And let's collaborate to do that, either through an association or a completely new thing or with a vendor partnership, that sort of stuff. 5th tactic, mobile and avoiding isolation. So it's things that you're hearing about. Responsive design, having a website that doesn't work on every kind of mobile device. And there's a new mobile device, I swear, coming out every 15 minutes. But between tablets and phablets and smartphones and what's changed in that space, the home phone is no longer important to our marketing. Keeping home phone numbers in our ILS is ridiculous when everyone has a personal phone with a separate phone number. The biggest shift that happened with the phone is it went from a shared device to a not shared device. And now we're looking at multi-platform, multi-device issues where we have national and global abilities to create apps, not on a per library system island. This will start to drive shared library cards, shared use, and a lot of this stuff, because no one's going to want to drive across 3 different library systems on the way to work and have a different app for every one of them. It's a bizarre way of doing it. It's like, okay, when I go across the border, I'm going to use my different Visa card, because why would credit work worldwide? Why do library cards work on this territorial archipelago basis? So we're going to look at integration with e-commerce, integration with when the small publishers have lost their major ability to connect with the customer with the loss of the independent bookstores. Can the library be the front door for small publishers, independent authors, as a borrower or as a distributor? And so we end up getting an ability to diffuse more broadly around our world, to underwrite the initial development costs into a shared application that can be localized, as opposed to a local application that cannot be shared or integrated. And then we get into anyone can develop their first app. The issue on technology is the long-term upgrades as the world, this should be world, not the word, but the word's adapting and changing too. So that's Tactic 5. Tactic 6. Where is the OCLC of program ideas? Where is the OCLC of LibGuide frameworks, website templates, API vaults, document libraries? How do we get speed to implementation? How do we make a difference in our communities? As we all develop makerspaces, as we all develop digital media studios, as we start to support creativity and job employment and business capacity in our localities, as we support learning, invention, creativity, discovery, the development of patents and those markers of are we creative, inventive economy, how do we get these things to move up? Or are we going to continue to, on too normal a basis, developing programs and not sharing them beyond? Are we going to keep our candles under the basket where so many of our colleagues say, oh, I did that, it went okay. Meanwhile, it was an awesome program, and others can build on it. How do we sit there and create more feet and shoulders so that we're standing on the shoulders of those who go before? That would be a huge opportunity for us to create a single vault of global programming. And even if we just started with aligning with the Common Core curriculum in school and public libraries, why is it a surprise to every library that all their Shakespeare books are out in October and November, when for my entire lifetime they're all gone in the first 3 days of the assignment of the Shakespeare paper, because it's taught in October and November in every school in Canada and the U.S. Where are our web pages on every website in the school and the public library that show, well, here's all the other stuff that's there in the databases that we have in Google Books, in Project Gutenberg. You are not lost now. Yet we handcraft it branch by branch. Staff training and community programs, shared state or province-wide learning management systems. We're building this in Ontario. We're launching it hopefully at the end of January. It has full mentoring structure in it. It has every course tied to a competency map that we've developed on a province-wide basis. It has tools for individuals to analyze what their gaps are. And it has the ability to include hundreds of trainers and programs. It allows you to permission your supervisor into parts of it and work together to build self-directed learning activities. The benefits are you can save your learning plan, you can coordinate, you got a shared structure, and it's asynchronous and asymmetrical and 24/7, 365, and you can generate certificates to prove that you've passed or engaged with a course to move our staff along to 21st century skills. In the community program basis, you now have the opportunity with lynda.com or Gale Courses or dozens of other companies to put 800, 900 professors and lecturers into your library and have 700, 2,000 courses there that anyone can take. In the early stages of this, we would see 200, 300, 400% growth every month of communities engaging with virtual programs. If programs are our primary role of community engagement, where is the ability or the demand of us collaborating to pull that together? It's early stages, but this allows us to fundamentally shift the behaviors. You look at Los Angeles or a few other urban library systems in the U.S. that have put entire high school, online high school curricula and all the courses into their programs so that you can do credit replacement that you might be missing to finish your grade 12 and become successful at being able to participate in society to get to higher level education or to meet minimum standards for certain jobs. If we don't do that, that's one of the most, I think this is one of the biggest opportunities we have to make our books and our collections and our databases relevant in the context of learning and community, not just in the context of the transactional borrowing. So, there's a list of opportunities. There's 7 tactics that we could collaborate on to build a difference. Some of the people in this webinar or this speech are from countries that have less infrastructure. I saw one from Africa, one from part of Asia, where you don't have legacy architecture, so you can leap over some of the work to do it more cost effectively to move forward. I'll be heading in a week and a half. I'm heading down to Manila in the Philippines, where the last time I was there, I was meeting with Pinky Aquino, who was building 500 libraries a year, where the average education of adults in the Philippines was grade 3 or 4, and now they're trying to make it law that you have to stay in school for grade through grade 10 or 12. And how does that change the dynamics of a major country in moving into being a successful emerging economy? And do libraries play a role in that? Well, the president's sister, Pinky Aquino, has the ear of her brother, and they do. So I think that's the right kind of strategy for libraries to be involved in when you align with the needs of your country, the needs of your state or province, the needs of your community or your institution. So, start to collaborate more. Address and align with your culture. Agree on the outcomes, not just, and then how to measure them, but make sure your outcomes are defined by how some human changes, not just your back office stuff, because it should support the outcomes you want. And then remove the barriers. I always say that leadership is about getting things out of the way to help people be successful. So, the takeaways I was hoping you might have today were to collaborate for results, but know your real measurements. Define the real problem, not the measurement that you're trying to address. Focus on the long term, but know your milestones and start to measure progress. And it goes to the last bullet, which is celebrate successes. If you know your milestones, every one of those should be a celebration opportunity. Spot and tear down barriers. Keep competition on the outside, collaboration on the inside. Who are you competing against? And it could be the competitive advantage of your country against others. It could be certain dynamics within your user base, whether it's your university wants to be the best at research in this area or whatever. Focus on people and culture first, not just the tools and technology. And celebrate, 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 because if we keep everybody happy and feeling positive about their contribution, even in those ambiguous moments when the collaboration feels frustrating, frustration tells us that we're engaged and we care. It doesn't tell us that something's going wrong. We're working together for common goals, and this is one of those, I like word clouds because they bring out insights in what we're pulling forward. So I put my email address down here. You can send me questions, or you can also send it on Twitter at @sabram. We've got about 5 minutes left in this session. I'm just going to see if anyone put any questions in.
Stephen, I haven't seen any questions, and we are encouraged. Oh, go ahead.
I see one saying a great example of collaboration's essential value is the human library, which I think is true. I've been a human book that got borrowed at a couple of conferences, and I've never had more exciting, fun conversations than just sharing knowledge with people on such a random basis. They're really cool.
How fun. We are encouraging speakers to finish a few minutes early so people have time to take a break before the next session. I didn't see any questions. That was really terrific. I sent you an email directly about something I'm interested in. If anybody has a burning question, we'll let you raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm clapping. Hover over the smiley face to go down to the applause button. I've posted that this is the Woodstock for library. That was a great phrase. Smith College, were you clapping, or did you want to take the mic? If you wanted to take the mic, feel free to click on your talk button. I think that was a clap. Stephen, just so respect you and appreciate your doing this and engaging with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay,
Hope to see
I
you
hope
soon.
so as well. Take care, everybody. I'm going to turn off the recording now.